The crash captain Raynor Black was known across the galaxy. He was not just a soldier, he was a legend. He had fought in wars on 10 planets, never lost a battle, never took orders blindly, and never backed down. But that day, everything changed. Raynor's ship was hit during a mission. He had been chasing a signal in deep space, a strange call, repeating over and over. No one else heard it, but Raynor followed it. He always followed danger. As he entered the orbit of an unknown planet, a sudden energy wave struck his ship. The controls died, the engines failed, the ship began to fall. Fast, red warning lights flashed all around. Emergency landing protocol activated, the system said. Raynor grabbed the controls, tried to slow down the fall, tried to guide the ship, but the planet pulled him like a beast with claws. His ship crashed into a thick jungle. Metal tore through trees. Fire exploded from the engines. And then silence. Raynor opened his eyes. His head hurt, but he was alive. He stepped out of the broken ship, gun in hand, eyes alert. The air was heavy. The sky was green. Strange birds screamed in the distance. But there were no signs of cities, no buildings, no roads, only trees. And silence. Raynor scanned the area. Footprints, big ones, but shaped like humans, only barefoot, and only one direction toward the mountains. Raynor followed. Every step was slow, careful. He had learned long ago, never trust silence. Then he saw them, figures tall and strong, watching him from the trees. They wore armor made of bones and metal. Long hair tied back, weapons glowing in their hands, and they were all women. Raynor stopped, raised his hands, did not speak. He waited. They didn't attack. They didn't move. They only watched. One of them stepped forward. She had a mark across her face, like lightning. She looked him up and down. Then she smiled, and spoke in a language he didn't understand. Raynor stayed still. The woman looked at the others. They laughed, not in mockery, but in amusement. Another warrior came forward and pointed at Raynor's chest, then at herself. Then she raised her weapon like a challenge. Raynor frowned. "What is this?" he whispered. "They want to fight?" The woman charged. Raynor moved fast, dodged, rolled, and kicked. She hit the ground in seconds. The others stepped back, surprised. This was not how it was supposed to go. Men were not fighters here. Men were supposed to be weak. Raynor stood tall, eyes sharp, breathing calm. He was not just a man. He was a soldier of Earth. The leader, the woman with the lightning scar, gave a sharp whistle. The warriors moved aside. They made a circle, a battle. Arena, Raynor understood. This was a ritual. This was not an attack. This was tradition. He was not on any normal planet. He had landed on a world with rules of its own. A world where women were warriors and men were prizes. Raynor looked at the circle, then at the women who were preparing to fight, and then he smiled. "I'm not going down that easy," he said. "Let's see what your world is made of." He stepped into the center, gun on his back, only fists now. One by one, they came, and one by one, they fell. The crowd grew silent. Then they started, chanting, not in fear, but in excitement. They had never seen a man fight like this, never seen anyone move like him. Raynor was becoming something new to them, not a target, not a prize, but a challenge. And in the shadows, one more figure watched, not laughing, not smiling, just watching. She whispered to herself, "He's not like the others." Raynor didn't know it yet, but he had just taken the first step into a world of war, tradition, and a power he had never faced before. And his greatest fight was yet to come. The law of combat. Raynor stood in the middle of the circle, breathing heavy, but calm. The ground was marked with footprints and blood, not his blood. He had defeated 5 of them, one after another, and they had called him weak. The women surrounding him were silent now, their eyes no longer mocking, Now they were filled with something else. Respect, fear, curiosity. But then, a loud horn echoed through the valley. All heads turned. From the forest came a new group, taller, darker, more armored, and they were not smiling. Raynor watched as the women around him lowered their heads. They kneeled, all except one. The one with the lightning scar. She stood straight and proud, but even she clenched her fists. A voice, cold and sharp, spoke in their language. A new warrior stepped forward. She had a black cloak and glowing tattoos on her arms. Her presence made the air feel heavier, like gravity itself was warning everyone. Raynor didn't understand the words, but he understood tone. This woman wasn't here to play. She was in charge, and she was angry. The cloaked woman pointed at Raynor. Then at the circle, she was challenging him. The lightning scar woman spoke back, her voice louder, but the cloaked one interrupted with a single word. That word made everyone freeze. Even Raynor felt the shift in energy. The lightning scarred woman turned to Raynor. She spoke slowly in broken English. You belong now to Trial of Flame. Raynor narrowed his eyes. What does that mean? She looked at him and replied, You fight, or you become what? He asked. She didn't answer. She only pointed at the cloaked warrior, who now removed her armor. Underneath was a body covered in scars and burn marks. A true fighter, a true killer. Raynor took a deep breath. His fists clenched. He was tired, sore, but alive, and he wasn't going to give up now. The Trial of Flame had begun. This was no longer a test for entertainment. This was their ancient law, a combat ritual older than their cities. If he lost now, he wouldn't just be taken, he would be owned. The circle grew wider, the crowd louder. The cloaked warrior stepped in, her eyes never leaving his. She struck first, faster than anyone before. Raynor ducked, rolled, and countered, but her movements were not random. She had studied him. She knew how he fought. Blow after blow, she drove him back. Raynor's breath grew heavy. His arms trembled. For the first time, he realized he might lose. But just then, he remembered something, a strategy from Earth combat. He changed his rhythm, slowed down, let her think she was winning. Then he struck, a low sweep kick, a palm strike to the ribs. She stumbled. The crowd gasped. But she didn't fall. She laughed. Not a mocking laugh, a warrior's laugh. One. That said, finally, a real fight. They clashed again. Fist against fist, skill against skill, power against will. Minutes passed like hours, until both stood, bruised and bleeding, neither one yielding. The fire pit at the center of the arena blazed higher. The Trial of Flame was not just a name. It was alive. Then suddenly she stepped back, lowered her weapon, raised her hand to the sky. Everyone went silent. She spoke one word in their tongue, and turned away. Raynor looked around, confused. The lightning-scarred woman approached him again. She smiled. You pass, she said. Now, you not just survive. You are chosen. Raynor frowned. Chosen for what? She leaned closer and whispered, to change everything. From the shadows, another figure had been watching, a new challenger, one who would not fight him with fists, but with something more dangerous. She would fight with mind, with heart, and with the truth about this world. Raynor didn't know it yet, but the real test hadn't even started. The unbeatable one Raynor was no longer a prisoner. He was no longer just the outsider. Now they called him the Flame Walker, the man who survived the Trial of Flame. But respect came with a price. Every morning, a new warrior stepped into the ring. They wanted to defeat the legend, to claim his name, to take his honor, and every time, Raynor stood tall. He did not lose, not once. His body hurt, his mind was tired, but he never showed weakness. Because weakness was death on this world. Days passed, then weeks, The village carved his name into stone. Stories spread to other clans. Some called him a hero. Others called him a threat. But deep inside the mountain fortress, in a chamber lit by red fire, someone watched him through a crystal screen. A woman alone, armored in black and silver, eyes sharp like blades. Her name was Kalara. She was not a warrior. She was the warrior, general of the Sky Flame Army, and she had never been defeated. Not in 50 trials, not in 100 battles. She had heard of Raynor. She had seen the fights, and unlike the others, she was not impressed. He's still raw, she said. Powerful, yes, but wild. His victories are loud, but not deep, one of her lieutenants asked. Shall we challenge him, General? Kalara shook her head. No, she replied. He will come to me soon. Back in the village, Raynor trained in silence. He no longer smiled when he won. Each battle took a part of him. He wasn't sure if he was becoming stronger or just more numb. Then, one morning, the sky changed. A dark ship hovered above the village. It dropped no bombs. It gave no warning. It only sent a signal. Raynor and the lightning-scarred warrior, named Sira, stood outside the gate. Sira looked worried. This means invitation, she said. Invitation? Raynor asked, from who? Sira looked at him with fear. From the one who never lost. From Kalara. The name echoed in Raynor's ears. He had heard it whispered. He had seen warriors freeze at the sound of it. Why now? He asked. Why me? Sira didn't answer, only handed him a blade, a ceremonial weapon, forged for one purpose, to face the unbeatable one. The ship opened. Raynor stepped inside. No guards, no chains, just silence inside. Walls of fire and steel, a throne made of molten glass, and Kalara, standing like a statue, still, powerful, quiet. Raynor stepped forward. She didn't move, didn't blink, only said one sentence. I have seen your flame, and? Raynor asked. It burns bright, she replied. But fire alone does not win war. She walked toward him, slow and calm. There are two kinds of power, she said. Power that destroys, and power that controls. Raynor raised an eyebrow. You plan to fight me, or teach me? Kalara smirked. Both. She snapped her fingers. The floor shifted, and the room became a battlefield. No audience, no rules, only her and him. Raynor moved first. Fast, direct, a strike aimed at her side. She blocked it with one hand, spun him around, and threw him back. No pain, but full control. Raynor growled and came again. This time, with fury. His blows were sharp, powerful. But she was air. She was water. She was everywhere and nowhere. He hit nothing but space. And in that space, he felt something. Doubt. Kalara stepped close, whispered in his ear. You fight like a beast. But beasts are easy to break. Raynor's hands trembled, not from fear, but from something worse. The realization that she was beyond him. The room faded. She called off the trial. You are not ready, she said, but you will be. Raynor fell to one knee, not in defeat, but in awakening. He had never met anyone like her, not in all his wars, not in all his fights, and now, for the first time, he wanted to learn. Kalara looked down at him. Rise, Flamewalker, she said. Your real war is just beginning. The Challenger * Raynor stood on the edge of a new path, not one made of war, but of understanding. Kalara had not broken him, but she had shaken him. Shaken the part of him that believed strength was only muscle, only fire, only fists. For the first time in his life, Raynor wanted to learn from someone stronger, not to defeat them, but to understand what made them unbeatable. Kalara became his teacher, but she was no ordinary mentor. She trained him with silence, with pressure, with chaos. She didn't tell him how to move. She showed him how to feel, how to sense the energy before the strike. how to breathe with the rhythm of the fight. Raynor's body ached each night, not from bruises, but from growth. The kind of growth that came when pride was shattered. An ego was burned away, but just when he thought he was becoming one of them, everything changed again. One morning, Kalara stood in the courtyard, her armor polished, her sword glowing. She said only one word. "Today." Raynor blinked. "Today." "What?" She turned, eyes like steel. "You face her." Raynor's heart skipped. "Who?" Kalara stepped aside, and from behind the stone doors walked a woman, taller than Sira, faster than Kalara, wrapped in red and black robes, and her face covered with a smooth silver mask. Kalara spoke. "She is called Vexa. She fights." "Only once, and never twice." Raynor frowned. "What does that mean?" Kalara replied, "If she wins, her opponent disappears. If she loses—" It has never happened. Raynor's hand reached for his blade, but Kalara stopped him. "This is not about your strength," she said. "It's about your control." The courtyard shifted again, the same training arena as before, but colder, darker. Vexa stepped into the ring, silent, slow, graceful like smoke. Raynor entered with caution. His instincts screamed danger, but not the kind he could fight with. Fists, this was something else, something deeper. The duel began, but Vexa didn't move to attack. She circled him, watching, studying. Raynor moved first, a safe strike. She dodged like wind. No resistance, no sound. Then suddenly she struck. Not his body, his mind. She whispered words he couldn't understand, but they echoed in his thoughts. Memories of war, of pain, of loss. His dead squad, his broken home. Raynor stumbled. Vexa wasn't fighting with weapons. She was fighting with fear, with trauma, with the ghosts inside him. He dropped to one knee, sweat pouring down his face. His hands shook. He saw flames from past battlefield. He heard screams. Kalara stood outside the ring, but she didn't step in. She watched, silent. Raynor gritted his teeth. This wasn't about killing Vexa. It was about surviving her, surviving himself. He closed his eyes, slowed his breath. He remembered Kalara's words, power that controls. He let the fear rise, let the memories burn, but he didn't run. He didn't scream. He stood. Vexa tilted her head, confused. He wasn't fighting her. He was accepting the pain, and that made her weak. Raynor opened his eyes, looked into the silver mask, and said, "You are not my enemy." With that, Vexa lowered her hand and vanished, like smoke in the wind. Kalara stepped forward, pride in her eyes. "You have done what no warrior here has," she said. "You faced her and remained whole." Raynor stood tall, stronger not in body, but in soul. But then the ground shook, sirens rang out across the fortress. A message lit the sky in blood-red letters. "The Sky Flame Army has been betrayed." Kalara's expression changed. From pride to fury, she looked at Raynor and said, "Your training is over. Now it's war." The broken flame, the fortress burned. Smoke rose like black wings above the mountains. Screams echoed through the stone halls. The Sky Flame Army was under attack. From within, Raynor ran through the corridors. Blade in hand, he passed wounded. Warriors, dead sentries, and shadows he could not name. Kalara led the defense. Her voice calm, her mind sharp, but her eyes, they showed something new. Doubt. Who betrayed us? Raynor asked. She answered with one word, family. The enemy wasn't some foreign invader. It was one of their own. A high commander named Tariq, once loyal, now corrupted by an ancient power buried deep beneath the planet. They called it the Heart Core, Kalara said. A weapon from before time, buried, sealed, and forgotten. But now, awakened, Raynor followed her down a spiral path. Deeper into the earth, the walls glowed with red veins, like the planet itself was bleeding. Tariq wants to use the core to reshape our world. Kalara said, "No more trials, no more balance, only power." Raynor stopped. "This core, what is it?" Kalara looked back at him. "It is alive," she said, "and it listens to pain." As they reached the lowest chamber, they found it, a heart made of crystal and fire, floating above black stone, pulsing like it had its own soul, and beside it, Tariq, covered in red armor, eyes glowing with unnatural light. "You came too late," Tariq said. His voice echoed, not just through the chamber, but inside their minds. Kalara stepped forward. "Tariq, you were my blood." "My brother," Tariq laughed. "Exactly," he said, "and that's why I must end you." He raised his hand. The core responded. Energy blasted toward them. Raynor jumped in front of Kalara. The blast hit him full force. The world cracked. Pain exploded in his chest, and then darkness. He woke up hours later, alone in a ruined chamber. The core was gone. Kalara was gone, and the fortress was dead. Raynor tried to stand. His legs were weak, his spirit shattered. For the first time since crashing on this planet, he felt lost, not in space, but in purpose. He stumbled outside. The sky was red. Villages burned in the distance. The planet was turning into a war zone, and in the wind, he heard whispers, voices. Not human, calling his name softly, constantly. Sira found him near the river. Wounded, silent, and broken, she knelt beside him, touched his face. "You must rise," she said. "You are the flame walker." But Raynor didn't answer. His flame was fading. His strength was not enough. Not against the core, not against betrayal. Sira pressed her forehead to his, her voice low. "There is one place left," she said, "where true warriors go when all hope is lost. It is called the Hollow." Raynor looked up, his eyes empty, but he nodded. The Hollow was no place for the living. It was a graveyard of ancient warriors. A realm between death and rebirth. Only those willing to give everything could enter. And fewer returned. Raynor left that night, alone. He carried no weapon, no armor, only pain, and the fire still burning deep inside as he walked toward the Hollow. The winds whispered, not his name this time, but a question. "Do you want to live, or do you want to change?" Raynor didn't speak, but inside, he knew. He didn't come to survive. He came to be reborn. And far above the clouds, from the edge of space, a new ship approached the planet. Not from this world, not from this galaxy. Another player had entered the war. One that did not care for trials, or honor, or balance. They came only for destruction, and the only one who could stop them was now walking through the land of the dead, searching for the last piece of himself before everything was lost. The hidden war Raynor walked through the Hollow, a place where the wind carried voices of the dead, where even shadows feared to move. The ground was cracked and black, bones scattered like fallen leaves, and strange lights floated in the fog. He had no weapon, no armor, no strength left in his limbs, but he kept walking, because something inside him had changed. Not the fire. The fire had burned away. What remained was something older, colder, wiser. He found the gate at the heart of the Hollow, a circle made of stone and stars. It shimmered with memory, echoes of warriors who had come before. He stepped through, and the world shifted suddenly. He was surrounded by ghosts, not spirits of the dead, but echoes of himself. Every battle he had ever fought, every mistake, every death he had survived, they circled him, accusing, whispering, testing. "Why do you keep fighting? What are you protecting? Who are you now?" Raynor closed his eyes. He remembered Kalara's voice, Sira's touch, and the fire of his ship crashing into this cursed world. Then he whispered back, "I fight, because I was not meant to survive. I was meant to end something, and begin something else." The echoes faded, and from the shadows, a figure emerged. It was not Kalara, not Sira, Not Vexa. It was the first flame, the very first. Warrior who had entered the hollow. Her body burned like a star. Her voice was time itself. "You came seeking power," she said. "But you brought purpose." Raynor knelt. "I seek balance," he said. "To end the war born from betrayal." She placed her hand on his chest, and suddenly everything changed. Raynor's body ignited with golden light. Not fire that burned, but fire that healed. His wounds vanished. His strength returned. And something more, a connection to the world itself. When he stepped out of the hollow, he was no longer just Raynor. He was something new, something ancient. The flame reforged, and the world had changed too. Tariq had taken control of the core. His army spread across the planet. Villages burned, tribes forced to kneel. And Kylara missing, the people had begun to lose hope. The legend of Raynor had faded. Some believed he had died. Others believed he had abandoned them. But one night, as the enemy prepared to destroy the last stronghold, the sky turned gold. A meteor of light crashed down in the center of the battlefield. From the fire walked Raynor, alive, changed, unbreakable. Sira saw him first. Tears filled her eyes. "Returned," she whispered. He placed his hand on her shoulder. "Not just to fight," he said, "but to finish it." That night, the tribes united, not because of fear, but because of belief. Raynor moved through the battlefield like a storm, not killing for rage, but ending violence with precision. He no longer fought to win. He fought to restore, but in the shadows, another force watched him. Not Tariq, not Kylara, something else. The ship that had arrived from deep space had landed in the dark valley. It carried beings not of this planet, not of any planet. Their bodies were cold light, there. Eyes empty voids, they were called the Null. Creatures born from dead stars, they did not conquer, they erased. Tariq had made a mistake. In awakening the core, he had sent a signal, a beacon, and the Null had answered. Now they approached, not to fight the people, but to devour the world. Kylara, still alive but weakened, watched from a prison far beneath the core. She felt the cold waves spreading through the soil. She whispered, "This is not our war anymore." Raynor stood at the edge of the battlefield, Sira beside him, and all the warriors he once fought against now stood with him. But he knew this war was not just about tribes or betrayal. This was now about existence itself. He looked at the sky and whispered, "Let them come. I am ready." And far above, the stars blinked as if watching, waiting for the final war to begin. The final choice. The sky cracked open like glass. The Null had arrived. They did not march. They did not shout. They simply moved like a wave of silence, swallowing light, sound, and memory. Raynor stood on the cliff's edge, his golden armor glowing against the black storm. Sira stood beside him, eyes wide with fear. Behind them, tribes gathered, enemies turned allies, old warriors ready to make a final stand. Kylara was still missing, her prison deep below the core, guarded by fire and metal. And time was running out. Raynor looked toward the horizon. He felt the earth trembling beneath his boots, not from war, but from the pull of a force not meant for this world. He turned to Sira. "If I fall," he said, "don't fight, run." But she grabbed his hand firm. "You don't fall anymore," she said. "You rise." In the distance, a voice called to him. Not human, not alien, but ancient. Core once asleep, now awake, it whispered inside his mind. "You are forged in fire," it said. "But to end this, you must burn everything." Raynor closed his eyes. He saw memories like flames, the crash, the trials, Kylara's calm gaze, Sira's strength, and the faces of those who now believed in him. He opened his eyes and chose. He marched toward the heart of the storm alone. Every step closer to the Null tore the sky deeper. The sun itself seemed to dim, as if the planet was preparing to surrender. But Raynor would not. He reached the ruins of the core. Inside, Kelara knelt in chains of red crystal. Her armor cracked, her spirit dim. She looked up. "You shouldn't have come," she said. Raynor knelt beside her. "Then why does it feel like this is exactly where I belong?" He touched the chains, and they melted. The core recognized him now, not as a warrior, but as balance. Kelara rose. "I couldn't stop them," she said. "You still can." Outside, the Null surrounded the battlefield. No weapons raised, just consuming. Tariq was among them, his body now hollow, a puppet of the core's corrupted side. He raised his hands. The core shook, and the world began to collapse. Mountains crumbled, oceans boiled, tribes screamed, hope cracked, but from the ruins. Golden fire exploded. Raynor and Kelara appeared, side by side, one flame reborn, the other undefeated. They charged, not with hate, but with purpose. The battle was not fair. It was never meant to be. Kelara faced Tariq, brother against sister, flame against shadow. Raynor faced the center of the Null, a being of nothingness, a god of silence. It reached into his mind, tried to strip him down, erase him, but it couldn't, because Raynor had already faced his worst fears and lived. He raised his hand, called the fire of the hollow, the lessons of Kelara, the belief of Sira, and the pain of every war he had survived. He became light, not to destroy, but to rewrite. The Null screamed, the core shattered, and time itself slowed. Raynor saw everything, 1,000 futures, worlds that burned, worlds that healed. And in that moment, he made the final choice. He let go. The fire exploded across the sky, but it did not burn. It rebuilt, it purified. And then, silence. When Kelara woke, she was lying beneath a tree. The sky was blue again. Birds sang, and the planet was alive. Sira stood nearby, tears in her eyes. "He's gone," she whispered. Kelara looked to the wind. "No," she said. "He became the world." Statues of Raynor were built across the mountains, not as a god, but as a bridge, a reminder that humanity did not come to conquer, but to change, to protect, to rise. And far beyond the stars, where the hollow touches the edges of space, a new flame flickers, waiting for the day it's needed again. Because heroes don't end, they evolve. And Raynor Black, the invincible man who lost to one woman, only to find purpose, will never be forgotten.